The rain fell hard on the forest of Nexus 9. Drops hit leaves and slid down to the muddy ground. Tay walked alone, his boots making squelching sounds with each step. He was lost. Great, he muttered, wiping water from his eyes. Just great. Tay was a researcher from Earth. For 3 years, he had studied the animals on this strange planet. Today was supposed to be a simple trip to collect samples. Then his equipment broke and the storm came without warning. He checked his compass again. The needle spun in circles, useless near the mineral-rich mountains. The research station was somewhere north, but in this downpour, every direction looked the same. Thunder boomed overhead. Tay quickened his pace, pushing through thick bushes with blue leaves. His wet clothes stuck to his skin, making him shiver. Night would come soon. Being in these woods after dark was dangerous. Just need to find higher ground, he told himself. Get my bearings. A flash of lightning lit up the forest. In that brief moment, Tay spotted a massive tree ahead. Its trunk was wider than 3 men standing side by side, with roots that rose from the ground like giant fingers. Perfect shelter. He hurried toward it, relief washing over him. The space beneath the roots formed a small cave, dry and protected from the rain. Tay ducked inside, shaking water from his hair. "Hello?" he called out of habit, though he expected no answer on this uninhabited part of the planet. A small sound replied, so faint he almost missed it. Tay froze. He reached slowly for the light on his belt and switched it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing something huddled against the far wall of the root cave. It was small, about the size of a house cat. Its body was covered in scales that shimmered between green and blue. 6 thin limbs curled inward, and flat membranes lay folded against its back. But most striking were its eyes. 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on its face, glowing amber in the light. "Well, hello there," Tay said softly, crouching down. "What are you?" The creature made a clicking sound followed by a weak chirp. It tried to move away but couldn't seem to find the strength. Tay had never seen anything like it in all his time on Nexus 9. He knew he should keep his distance. The first rule of xenobiology was clear. Observe, don't interact. But something was wrong with the little being. Its breathing came in quick, shallow gasps. The scales on its belly had a strange purple tint that didn't look natural. When it tried to stand, its legs trembled and gave out. "You're sick," Tay realized. The creature looked at him with those glowing eyes. It made another sound, softer this time, almost like a whimper. The noise went straight to Tay's heart. Rules or no rules, he couldn't leave it here to die. Moving slowly, Tay reached into his pack and pulled out his water bottle. He poured a little into the cap and placed it near the creature. It sniffed the water but didn't drink. Not thirsty? Or maybe you don't drink water at all, Tay mused. The rain continued to pour outside. Tay checked his watch. At least 3 hours until sunset. If he left now, he might still make it back to the station before dark. The creature tried to stand again and fell. This time it didn't try to get back up. That's it, Tay decided. You're coming with me. He took off his outer jacket, a waterproof shell made for the planet's harsh weather. Gently, very gently, he wrapped it around the small being. It didn't resist, which worried him even more. "Easy now," he whispered, lifting the bundle. The creature weighed almost nothing, like holding a few feathers. It trembled against his chest. Tay tucked the jacket carefully into his shirt, creating a makeshift pouch. The creature's head poked out, its eyes half closed. "Dr. Yun will know what to do," Tay told it. "She's the smartest person I know. If anyone can help you, she can." With his new companion secure, Tay stepped back into the rain. The storm had eased slightly, enough for him to see a hill in the distance. From there, he might spot the research station. As he walked, Tay felt the creature's breathing against his chest. Each breath seemed more difficult than the last. "Stay with me, little one," he urged. Just a little longer. The forest grew thicker. Branches grabbed at his clothes and hidden roots tried to trip him. Tay pushed forward, one hand holding his precious cargo, the other clearing a path. He didn't notice the eyes watching from the trees. Hundreds of them following his every move. He didn't hear the soft wing beats above the canopy or the clicking communications passing from one watcher to another. Tay climbed the hill, his legs burning with effort. At the top, he scanned the horizon and spotted a welcome sight, the metal dome of the research station about 2 kilometers away. "See that?" he said to the bundle against his chest. "That's home. We're almost there." The creature made no sound. Tay checked on it and found its eyes closed, its breathing even fainter than before. No. Don't give up now," he pleaded, picking up his pace. He began to jog, then run, ignoring the branches that scratched his face and arms. The rain stopped as suddenly as it had started. Sunlight broke through the clouds, turning the wet forest into a glittering wonderland. But Tay had no time to admire the view. His focus was entirely on reaching the station. He burst from the tree line into the clearing where the research station stood. The dome gleamed in the sunlight, its solar panels drinking in the sudden brightness. Tay shouted as he approached. "June, I need help." The station door slid open. Dr. Yoon stepped out, her face showing surprise, then concern. "Tay, what happened? You're bleeding." Tay hadn't even noticed the cuts on his face and arms. "Never mind that," he said, carefully opening his jacket to reveal his discovery. "I found this in the forest." "It's sick." Yoon's eyes widened. She moved closer, her scientific curiosity taking over. "Bring it inside, quickly." As they entered the station, June looked up from his communication console. His mouth fell open at the sight of the creature. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked. "I don't know what it is," Tay admitted, placing his bundle gently on the examination table. "I found it sheltering from the rain. It can't stand. Its breathing is weak." Yoon grabbed her scanner and ran it over the small being. Data filled the screen, numbers and charts that meant nothing to Tay. "Incredible," she whispered. "It's biology? I've never seen anything like this. Can you help it?" Tay asked. Yoon studied the readings. "Maybe. Its system seems to be fighting some kind of infection. I might be able to create an antibiotic that would work." The creature's eyes opened slightly, looking directly at Tay. It made a soft clicking sound. "I think it understands us," Tay said. June moved to the window, looking out at the forest. Guys, you might want to see this." Tay and Yoon joined him. What they saw made them freeze. At the edge of the clearing stood a creature similar to the one Tay had found, but much larger, at least 2 meters tall. Its wings were fully extended, displaying patterns of color that shifted like oil on water. Behind it, partially hidden by trees, were more shapes watching silently. "They followed me," Tay realized. "They know I have one of their kind." The scanner on the table beeped, completing its analysis. Hoon rushed back to check the results. Her face paled. "Tay," she said slowly, "according to these readings, this isn't just any hatchling." She looked up, her eyes wide. "It's royalty, possibly even a future queen." Outside, the large creature took a step forward, its 3 eyes fixed on the station. Tay looked down at the small being on the table, now understanding the weight of what he had done. He had not simply rescued a sick animal. He had changed the future of 2 species forever. "A queen?" Tay's voice was barely a whisper. He looked down at the small creature on the table, then back to the window where the large adult stood watching. Dr. Yoon nodded, her fingers moving quickly over her scanner. "These genetic markers are clear. This hatchling has a unique DNA structure compared to what we've observed in other species on Nexus 9. The sick hatchling made a weak chirping sound. Its 3 amber eyes opened slightly, looking up at Tay. "What do we do?" June asked, still watching the creatures outside. "There are more coming. I count at least 12 now." Tay took a deep breath. "We help her. That's what we do." Un looked uncertain. "Tay, this goes against all our protocols. We're not supposed to interfere with native life." "I already broke that rule when I brought her in," Tay said firmly. "I'm not going to let her die now." The hatchling's breathing had become more labored. The purple discoloration on its belly scales seemed to be spreading. Whatever was making it sick was getting worse. Yoon sighed and turned to her workstation. "I'll need to create an antibiotic that works with its biology. It won't be easy. How long will it take?" Tay asked. "Hours maybe. I don't know." Yoon began pulling supplies from cabinets. "I need to understand what's causing the infection first." June stepped away from the window. "Those creatures outside don't look like they'll wait hours. They look angry." Tay shook his head. Not angry, worried. He didn't know how he knew this, but he felt certain. "They're worried about her." He moved to the station's communication system. It was designed to send messages to Earth, not to communicate with alien species. "But maybe, June, can we use the external speakers? Send some kind of message to them?" June frowned. "What kind of message? We don't speak their language." "No, but they might understand that we're trying to help." Tay pointed to the medical equipment. "Show them we're treating her." Un looked up from her work. "That's actually not a bad idea. If they can see we're helping, not harming, they might give us the time we need." June nodded and moved to the control panel. With a few quick commands, he activated the station's external cameras and display screens. The large monitors on the outside of the dome lit up, showing the inside of the lab where they were treating the hatchling. Outside, the reaction was immediate. The large creature tilted its head, its 3 eyes fixed on the screen. The others moved closer, wings slightly extended. "I think it's working," June said. "They're watching." Yoon continued her analysis, taking a small sample of the hatchling's blood. She placed it under a microscope and displayed the image on a screen. "Look at this," she said. "There's something attacking its cells. Some kind of bacteria, but unlike anything I've seen before." Tae leaned closer. "Can you stop it?" "Maybe." Yoon moved to her medicine cabinet. "I need to try different compounds, see what kills the bacteria without harming the hatchling." The young queen made another weak sound. Tae gently stroked her head with one finger. To his surprise, she leaned into his touch. "Hang in there, little one," he whispered. Outside, the large creature had moved closer to the station. It now stood just 10 meters from the door, its massive form casting a shadow in the afternoon sun. The patterns on its wings shifted constantly, flashing colors in what seemed like a complex sequence. "I think it's trying to communicate," June said, watching the display. Tae had an idea. "June, can you record those color patterns? Maybe there's a pattern we can decode." June nodded and adjusted the cameras to focus on the creature's wings. "Recording now." Yoon worked quickly, testing different antibiotic compounds on the blood sample. After several failed attempts, she gave a small cry of triumph. "This one works. This compound is killing the bacteria." She hurried to prepare an injection, carefully measuring the dose for the hatchling's small body. "Hold her still," Yoon instructed Tae. "This might hurt her, but it's her best chance." Tae gently held the hatchling, whispering soothing words as Yoon administered the injection. The little creature flinched but didn't struggle. "Now we wait," Yoon said, setting down the empty syringe. "If it works, we should see improvement within an hour." A loud sound from outside made them all jump. The large creature had struck the ground with one of its limbs, creating a booming noise that echoed through the station. "What was that?" Tae asked. "Is it attacking?" June shook his head, studying the recordings. "I don't think so." "Look at this," he played back the footage. The creature's wing patterns had changed just before it struck the ground. "It's getting impatient," June suggested. "Or maybe it's asking for an update." Tae moved to the external camera. "Let's show them what we did." He held up the empty syringe where the camera could see it, then pointed to the hatchling, trying to convey that they had given her medicine. The large creature outside went still. Then slowly it lowered its wings and took a step back. "I think it understands," Tae said with relief. For the next hour, they monitored the hatchling closely. Yoon took regular readings, tracking the progress of the antibiotic. Outside, the creatures remained, watching the screens that showed their young queen. Gradually, the hatchling's breathing became more regular. The purple discoloration began to fade from her scales. Her 3 eyes opened wider, more alert than before. "It's working," Yoon said, smiling for the first time since Tai had returned. "The infection is retreating." The hatchling chirped, a stronger sound than before. She tried to stand on her 6 limbs and managed to stay up for a few seconds before sitting down again. "She's getting stronger," Tae said, feeling a surge of joy. "She's going to make it." Outside, the large creature made a trilling sound that was echoed by the others. The colors on its wings shifted to a bright blue pattern. "They know," June said. "Somehow they know she's getting better." Yoon checked her scanner again. The infection is nearly gone. Her body is fighting off the rest with the help of the antibiotic. The hatchling looked up at Tae and made a series of clicking sounds. Then, to everyone's surprise, she extended one small limb and touched Tae's hand. A strange sensation washed over him, like a gentle current flowing from the hatchling into his mind. Images flashed before his eyes. A dark, warm place with glowing walls. Many eggs nestled in soft material, larger creatures tending to the eggs. Then darkness, fear, rain, and finally Tae's own face looking down with concern. The connection broke as the hatchling withdrew her limb. Tae blinked, stunned by what had just happened. She showed me things," he said slowly. "I think she showed me where she came from. Some kind of underground nest. Telepathic communication?" Eun asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "That would explain how they coordinate as a species." The hatchling chirped again and tried to stand. This time she managed to stay up, her 6 limbs finding their strength. Her wing membranes, previously flat against her back, now extended slightly. "Look at that," Tay said proudly. "She's already getting stronger." A new sound came from outside, a deep, resonant call that seemed to vibrate through the walls of the station. The large creature had raised its head, making the sound while looking directly at the camera. "What does that mean?" Un asked. Before anyone could answer, the hatchling responded with a similar call, though higher in pitch. She looked at Tay, then at the door of the station, then back at Tay. "I think," Tay said slowly, "she wants to go to them." June looked nervous. "Are you sure that's a good idea? What if they blame us for her getting sick in the first place? They've been watching us help her," Tay pointed out. "They could have attacked at any time, but they waited." The hatchling chirped again, more insistent this time. She took a few wobbly steps toward the edge of the table. Tay quickly moved to catch her before she fell. "Careful, little one," he said, gently lifting her. She felt warmer now, her body vibrating with new energy. Yoon checked her scanner one last time. The infection is gone. "She's still weak, but she's healing." Tay looked at his colleagues. "I'm taking her outside." "Tay, wait," Yoon said, grabbing his arm. "We don't know how they'll react." "We have to trust them," Tay replied. "Just like they trusted us to help her." The hatchling made a soft sound and nestled against Tay's chest. He felt that strange connection again, fainter this time, but carrying feelings of safety and gratitude. With a deep breath, Tay walked to the station door. June and Yoon followed, staying close behind him. "Open the door," Tay said. June hesitated, then pressed the button. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Outside, the large creature waited, its 3 eyes fixed on the small bundle in Tay's arms. The future of both species hung in the balance of what would happen next. The door slid open. Warm air rushed into the station, carrying the scents of wet earth and strange flowers. Tay stood in the doorway, the young queen cradled in his arms. His heart beat fast, but he kept his breathing steady. The large creature outside didn't move. It stood like a statue, its 3 amber eyes fixed on the small bundle Tay held. Behind it, the others waited, their wing membranes slightly extended, catching the last light of the setting sun. "It's okay," Tay said softly to the hatchling. "Your family is here," the young queen chirped, a sound much stronger than before. She lifted her head, looking at the large creature with clear recognition. Slowly, carefully, Tay took a step forward, then another. The gravel crunched under his boots. He could feel Yoon and June watching nervously from just inside the doorway. When Tay was 5 meters from the large creature, he stopped. The being towered over him, nearly 3 times his height. Up close, Tay could see the intricate patterns on its scales, swirls and lines that seemed to tell a story he couldn't read. "I found her in the forest," Tay said, knowing his words weren't understood but hoping his tone was. "She was sick. We helped her." The large creature lowered its massive head until it was level with Tay's. Its breath smelled like sweet berries. Those 3 eyes blinked slowly, one after another in a clockwise pattern. The hatchling in Tay's arms made a series of clicks and trills. The large creature responded with similar sounds. Though deeper and more complex, "They're talking," June whispered from the doorway. The hatchling squirmed in Tay's arms, clearly wanting to move closer to the large creature. Tay hesitated, then took another step forward. The large creature extended one limb. Its claw was the size of Tay's hand, with scales that shimmered blue-green in the fading light. Gently, so gently, it touched the hatchling's head. What happened next took Tay's breath away. Both creatures' eyes began to glow brighter. The hatchling's soft amber light was matched by the adult's stronger glow. The light seemed to pulse between them, creating a bridge of golden radiance. Then the large creature did something unexpected. It extended its claw further and touched Tay's forehead. The world disappeared. Tay found himself floating in a space filled with colors he had no names for. Images flowed around him like water, memories that weren't his own. He saw a vast underground chamber, its walls covered in glowing fungi. Hundreds of eggs rested in soft nests, tended by creatures like the ones outside. He saw the eggs hatching, tiny beings emerging with wet wings and bright eyes. Then he saw one egg, larger than the others, placed on a raised platform. From it emerged the hatchling he had found, special, different, precious to her kind. The images shifted. Now he saw the young queen wandering away during what seemed to be her first trip to the surface. He felt the panic when she didn't return, the frantic search through the forest. Then, most surprising of all, he saw himself through alien eyes, a strange two-legged creature walking through their territory for many months. Always watching, never harming. Taking pictures, collecting plants, but never threatening the forest or its inhabitants. The connection broke. Tay gasped, finding himself back in the clearing. The large creature had removed its claw from his forehead, but its eyes still watched him closely. What? What was that? Tay whispered. The hatchling chirped, looking up at him with what seemed like concern. They showed me their memories, Tay said, turning to look at Yoon and June. They've been watching us all along. They know we're researchers. Yoon stepped forward cautiously. Did they show you anything else? Before Tay could answer, the large creature made a sweeping motion with its wings. The others behind it moved, creating an open path that led into the forest. The hatchling chirped excitedly and tried to climb up Tay's chest to see better. I think, Tay said slowly, they want us to go with them. June shook his head. That's crazy. We can't just follow them into the forest at night. I don't think we have a choice, Yoon said, pointing to the sky. More of the creatures had appeared, circling overhead. Their wings caught the last rays of sunlight, turning them into flying jewels against the darkening sky. The hatchling made an insistent sound and pointed one small limb toward the forest path. She wants us to follow, Tay said. I think it's important. Yoon bit her lip, then nodded. Let me get my medical kit and scanner. If they're inviting us into their territory, this could be the scientific opportunity of a lifetime. And if it's a trap? June asked. Tay looked down at the hatchling, who was now trying to climb onto his shoulder. It's not a trap. They could have hurt us already if they wanted to. Yoon returned quickly with her equipment. Ready? Tay nodded to the large creature and took a step toward the forest path. We'll follow you. The creature made a sound like distant thunder and turned, moving with surprising grace for its size. The others fell into formation around it, creating a living corridor that led into the trees. With the hatchling riding on his shoulder, Tay followed. Yoon walked close behind him, her scanner already taking readings. June came last, looking back nervously at the safety of their station growing smaller behind them. The forest at night was different from anything Tay had experienced before. As darkness fell completely, the plants began to glow. Blue light came from the leaves, purple from the flowers, and green from the moss on the trees. It was like walking through a living rainbow. The creatures led them deeper into the forest. Some walked beside them while others flew overhead, their wings making soft whooshing sounds in the night air. The hatchling seemed to grow stronger with each passing minute. She chirped and trilled, sometimes to Tay and sometimes to the others of her kind. Occasionally, she would touch Tay's cheek with one small claw, sending brief flashes of emotion rather than full images. Excitement, anticipation, and something like pride. After walking for nearly an hour, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a massive tree, larger than any Tay had seen before. Its trunk was wider than their entire research station, and its branches reached so high they disappeared into the darkness above. The large creature stopped and turned to face them. It made a series of complex sounds, then pointed to the base of the tree. Tay looked closer and saw what he had missed at first, an opening in the trunk, like a doorway into the heart of the tree itself. They want us to go inside, he said. Yoon checked her scanner. There's a large open space beyond that entrance, and many life signs. The hatchling chirped excitedly, bouncing on Tay's shoulder. I think this is their home, Tay said, and she's eager to show it to us. June looked uncertain. Are we really going to walk into an alien nest? Colony, Yoon corrected. Based on their social structure, nest isn't the right term. This is more like a city. The large creature made an impatient sound and gestured again to the entrance. We came this far, Tay said. Let's see it through. He approached the opening in the tree. Warm air flowed out, carrying strange but not unpleasant scents. The hatchling made a happy sound and nuzzled against his cheek. Taking a deep breath, Tay stepped through the doorway. Yoon and June followed close behind. Inside, they froze in wonder. The tree was hollow, creating a vast chamber that rose hundreds of meters above them. The walls glowed with the same fungi Tay had seen in the shared vision. Platforms and walkways had been grown from the living wood, creating levels upon levels of living space. And everywhere, there were more of the creatures. Hundreds of them of all sizes. Some tended to gardens of glowing plants, Others worked with tools made from crystal and wood. Young ones played on the lower levels, their wings not yet fully developed. "It's a civilization," Yoon whispered in awe. "A complete, complex civilization that we never knew existed." The hatchling chirped proudly as if to say, "This is my home." The large creature that had led them made a loud call that echoed through the chamber. All activity stopped. Every three-eyed face turned to look at the humans. Then, to Tay's surprise, the creatures began to bow. First the large one, then those nearby, then the ones on the higher levels. Like a wave, the gesture spread until every being in the chamber had lowered its head. "What's happening?" June asked, his voice barely audible. The hatchling on Tay's shoulder sat up straight, her three eyes glowing brightly. She made a sound unlike any Tay had heard before, clear and musical like a bell ringing in the distance. "I think," Tay said slowly, "they're not bowing to us. They're bowing to her. The queen has come home." And as the creatures raised their heads, their eyes all glowing in unison, Tay realized that by saving one small life in the forest, he had changed the future of an entire world. The great chamber inside the tree hummed with activity. After the bowing ended, the creatures returned to their tasks, though many still watched the humans with curious eyes. The young queen remained perched on Tay's shoulder, occasionally making soft chirping sounds to guide them. The large creature that had led them, Tay had begun to think of it as the guardian, motioned for them to follow. It led them to a platform that began to rise as soon as they stepped onto it. The platform moved smoothly upward, carried by some force Tay couldn't understand. "This technology is incredible," Yoon whispered, her scanner working constantly. "They're using the natural energy of the tree somehow." June looked down as they rose higher. "How did we miss all this?" "We've been on this planet for 3 years. They didn't want to be found," Tay said simply. "Not until now." The platform stopped at a level high above the main floor. Here the chamber narrowed, creating a more intimate space. The walls were covered with intricate carvings that seemed to tell stories. Images of the creatures in flight, building their tree home, and interacting with other species of the planet. The guardian led them to a circular area in the center of this level. The floor here was different, smoother, with swirling patterns that glowed softly. In the middle sat a raised stone that looked like a small table. The young queen chirped and jumped down from Tay's shoulder. She landed gracefully and scampered to the stone table. There she turned and made a series of clicking sounds. The guardian responded with similar clicks, then looked at Tay and made a gesture toward the table. "I think they want us to come closer," Tay said. The three humans approached the stone table. Up close, Tay could see that it wasn't stone at all, but some kind of crystal that glowed from within. The young queen placed one small claw on the crystal surface. It lit up brighter, and the swirling patterns on the floor began to move faster. "What's happening?" June asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, the air above the table shimmered. Light gathered, forming shapes that slowly became clear, a three-dimensional image floating in the air. "It's a hologram," Yoon gasped. "They have holographic technology." The image showed the planet Nexus 9 rotating slowly. Then it zoomed in to show the forest where they stood. Next came images of the research station, then of Tai, Yoon, and June going about their daily work. "They've been studying us," Tay realized. "Just as we've been studying them." The young queen chirped in what sounded like agreement. She touched the crystal again and the image changed. Now they saw eggs, dozens of them, nestled in soft material that glowed gently. The eggs were large, each about the size of Tay's head. Most had a blue-green color, but one was different, larger with a golden tint. The image zoomed in on this special egg. "That's her egg," Tay said, looking at the young queen. "The queen's egg." The hologram continued, showing the golden egg hatching. The young queen emerged, smaller and weaker looking than she was now. The image followed her growth, showing her first steps, her first attempts at flight, her learning from older creatures. Then came a scene that made Tay's heart beat faster. The young queen, now looking much as she did when Tay found her, was part of a group exploring the forest surface. While the others were distracted, she wandered away, curious about a glowing plant. She touched it and immediately fell ill. The plant released spores that covered her scales. "That's what made her sick," Yoon said, checking her scanner. "Some kind of toxic plant spore." The hologram showed the young queen stumbling through the forest, growing weaker, until she found shelter under the roots of the great tree where Tay had discovered her. The image shifted again, showing Tay finding her, wrapping her in his jacket, carrying her through the rain to the station. It showed Yoon creating the medicine, giving the injection, the young queen growing stronger. They saw everything, June whispered. They were watching the whole time. The guardian made a deep sound and stepped forward. It placed its large claw next to the young queen's small one on the crystal table. The hologram changed again. Now they saw something new, a vast underground chamber filled with more eggs. But something was wrong. Many of the eggs had dark spots on their shells. Some had stopped glowing entirely. "They're sick," Yoon said, leaning closer to the image. "The eggs are infected with something." The hologram zoomed in on one egg. The dark spots were spreading across its surface. Inside, the developing creature was struggling, its movements growing weaker. The young queen made a sad chirping sound. She looked up at Tay, then at Yoon, her three eyes pleading. "They need our help," Tay said, understanding at last. "That's why they brought us here. Their future generation is dying." Yoon studied the hologram carefully. It could be the same infection that affected the young queen. If the spores got into their nesting area somehow. The guardian made a series of clicking sounds. It touched the crystal again, and the hologram showed a new image. The three humans working with the creatures, treating the eggs, saving the next generation. "They want us to help them save their children," Tay said softly. Yoon was already checking her medical kit. "I might be able to adapt the antibiotic I used for the young queen. But I'd need more supplies from the station." The guardian seemed to understand. It made a gesture toward the platform they had used to ascend. "I think they'll take us back to get what we need," Tay said. June looked troubled. "Tay, we should think about this. Our mission is to observe, not interfere." "If Earth Command finds out..." "Earth Command isn't here," Tay interrupted. "We are, and these beings need our help." He looked at the young queen, who was watching him with those intelligent amber eyes. "They trusted us with their future queen. Now they're trusting us with their entire next generation." The young queen chirped and moved to Tay's side. She climbed up his leg and back onto his shoulder, nuzzling against his cheek. Yoon nodded firmly. "I agree with Tay, we can't turn our backs on them." June sighed, then nodded too. "All right, but we should document everything. This is first contact with an intelligent species. It needs to be recorded properly." The guardian made a sound that might have been approval. It led them back to the platform, which began to descend. As they moved down through the great tree chamber, Tay noticed something he had missed before. On every level, creatures stopped their work to watch the young queen pass. Many touched their claws to their foreheads in what seemed like a gesture of respect. "She's really important to them," Tay said quietly. The young queen chirped softly in his ear. Then, to his surprise, she placed one small claw on his forehead. The connection formed instantly, stronger than before. Tay saw images of the young queen growing larger, her wings fully extended. He saw her leading her people, making decisions that affected them all. He saw eggs, her eggs, being placed on special platforms tended by many helpers. Then he saw something unexpected: humans and the creatures working together. Building structures, studying the forest, learning from each other. A future of cooperation and shared knowledge. The connection broke as the young queen removed her claw. Tay blinked, trying to process what he had seen. "She showed me the future," he said softly. "Her future, and maybe ours too." The platform reached the ground level. The guardian led them toward the entrance of the tree. Outside, night had fully fallen, but the forest glowed with natural light from plants and fungi. Several flying creatures waited near the entrance. They were smaller than the guardian, but larger than the young queen, with fully developed wings that shimmered in the darkness. The guardian made a series of clicking sounds. The flying creatures responded, then moved into position around the humans. "I think they're going to escort us back to the station," Yoon said. The young queen chirped from Tai's shoulder, then jumped down. She made a sound to the guardian, who lowered its head to listen. After a brief exchange, the guardian looked at Tay and made a gesture that seemed to indicate agreement. The young queen scampered back to Tay and climbed up to his shoulder again. "I think she's coming with us," Tay said. Surprised, June raised his eyebrows. "They're letting their future queen leave with us?" "They trust us now," Yoon said. "We saved her once. They believe we'll keep her safe while we work together to save the others." As they left the great tree and started back through the glowing forest, Tay felt the weight of that trust on his shoulders, quite literally, as the young queen rode there, occasionally chirping directions to their escorts. What had begun as a simple act of compassion in the rain had become something much more significant. They were no longer just observers on this planet. They were partners with its most intelligent species, working together to ensure a future for both. The young queen made a soft, contented sound and settled more comfortably on Tay's shoulder. In saving her, he had opened the door to understanding an entire civilization and perhaps changed the course of human exploration forever. The walk back to the research station was faster than the journey to the great tree. The flying creatures led the way, their glowing bodies lighting the path through the dark forest. The young queen remained on Tay's shoulder, occasionally making soft chirping sounds that seemed to guide their escorts. "I still can't believe this is happening," June whispered as they walked. "First contact with an intelligent alien species, and it's because you picked up a sick baby in the rain." Tay smiled. "Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest actions." The research station came into view, its metal dome reflecting the light from the flying creatures. As they approached, Yun was already making plans. "I'll need to make a large batch of the antibiotic," she said, "and we'll need a way to deliver it to all those eggs." The young queen chirped and tapped Tay's cheek with one small claw. When he turned to look at her, she made a drinking motion. "I think she's suggesting we put the medicine in liquid form," Tay said. "Maybe they can add it to whatever they use to keep the eggs moist." Yun nodded. "That could work. A liquid solution would be easier to apply to multiple eggs." They reached the station, and June opened the door. The flying creatures remained outside, settling on nearby trees like colorful birds. Only the young queen entered with the humans still riding on Tay's shoulder. Inside, Yun went straight to her lab area. She pulled out equipment and began mixing chemicals. June moved to the communication console. "I should send a message to Earth Command," he said. "They need to know about this," Tay frowned. "Wait, let's think about this first. Earth Command might order us to stop interfering. This is first contact, Tay. It's too important to keep secret." "I'm not saying keep it secret forever, just until we've helped them save their eggs. Once that's done, we can send a full report." The young queen watched this exchange with interest, her three eyes moving from one human to the other. She made a soft trilling sound that somehow conveyed understanding. June sighed. "Fine. We help them first, then report. But no longer than a week, okay?" Tay nodded. "Agreed." For the next several hours, they worked nonstop. June created batch after batch of the antibiotic, modifying it slightly based on what they had learned about the infected eggs. Tay helped, following her instructions carefully. June documented everything with the station's cameras, creating a detailed record of this historic moment. The young queen stayed close, watching their work with obvious interest. Sometimes she would chirp or click as if offering suggestions. Though they couldn't understand her words, her meaning often seemed clear from her gestures and the images she occasionally shared through touch. As dawn approached, Yoon held up a large container of blue liquid. "It's ready. This should be enough to treat all the eggs we saw in the hologram," the young queen chirped excitedly. She jumped down from the table where she had been sitting and ran to the door, looking back at them expectantly. "I think she's ready to go," Tay said, gathering the containers of medicine. Outside, the flying creatures still waited. They rose from their perches as the humans emerged from the station, their wings catching the first light of dawn. The journey back to the great tree was different in daylight. Tay could now see details he had missed in the darkness, the intricate patterns on the flying creatures' wings, the way the forest plants responded to their presence by turning toward them, the small animals that watched curiously from hiding places. The young queen rode on Tay's shoulder again, occasionally making sounds to the flying escorts. They would respond with similar sounds, creating a conversation Tay wished he could understand. "We need to work on communication," he said to Yoon as they walked. "Find a way to truly talk with them." Yoon nodded. "With time, we might be able to create a translation program. Their language seems to combine sounds, colors, and touch." When they reached the great tree, a crowd had gathered outside. Creatures of all sizes waited, their eyes fixed on the humans and the precious containers they carried. The guardian stood at the entrance, its massive form easy to spot among the others. It made a deep sound when it saw them, and the crowd parted to create a path. Inside the tree, even more creatures waited, The platform that had taken them up before was ready. The Guardian led them onto it and they began to ascend once more. But this time they didn't stop at the level with the crystal table. The platform continued higher, past levels filled with living quarters and work areas until they reached the very top of the hollow tree. Here the space opened into a vast chamber with a high, domed ceiling. Light streamed in through small openings in the walls, creating patterns on the floor. And in the center of this chamber was what they had come to save, the egg chamber. Hundreds of eggs rested in nests made of soft, glowing material. Many showed the dark spots they had seen in the hologram. Some eggs had stopped glowing entirely, their surfaces dull and lifeless. Creatures moved among the eggs, tending to them with gentle touches. They looked up as the humans entered, their eyes showing what Tay could only interpret as hope. The young queen jumped down from Tay's shoulder and ran to the center of the chamber. There, on a raised platform, was a special nest that held no eggs. She climbed onto it and made a loud, clear call. All activity in the chamber stopped. Every creature turned to look at the young queen. She made another call, then pointed to the humans with one small claw. The Guardian moved forward and knelt before the young queen, touching its forehead to the edge of her platform. Then it rose and approached the humans, extending one large claw toward the containers they carried. "I think it's time," Tay said, handing one container to Yoon and keeping one himself. Yoon nodded. "We need to show them how to apply it." They approached the nearest nest of eggs. The dark spots were clearly visible on the shells. Tay opened his container and carefully poured a small amount of the blue liquid onto a cloth. Then he gently dabbed it onto one of the infected eggs, covering the dark spots. The Guardian watched closely, then took the cloth from Tay. It repeated the action on another egg, its large claws surprisingly gentle. The young queen chirped approvingly from her platform. She made a series of sounds and several creatures came forward. Each took a cloth and dipped it into the medicine, then moved to different nests to treat the eggs. "They understand," Yoon said with relief. "They know what to do." For the next few hours, humans and creatures worked side by side. Tay, Yoon, and June moved through the chamber, showing the proper way to apply the medicine and monitoring its effects. The creatures learned quickly, their movements becoming more confident as they saw the dark spots beginning to fade from the treated eggs. The young queen remained on her platform, watching everything. Occasionally, she would make sounds that seemed to encourage or direct the workers. Though she was small, her authority was clear. As they worked, Tay noticed something remarkable. The eggs that had been treated first were already showing improvement. The dark spots were shrinking and the natural glow was returning to their shells. "It's working faster than I expected," Yoon said, examining one egg with her scanner. "Their biology must process the medicine more efficiently than I thought." By midday, every egg in the chamber had been treated. The creatures gathered around the humans, making sounds that needed no translation. They were expressions of gratitude. The Guardian approached Tay and extended one claw. Tay hesitated, then reached out and touched it. The connection formed immediately. Images flowed into Tay's mind. The eggs hatching, healthy young ones emerging, growing strong under the care of their community. Then he saw the young queen, grown larger, leading her people. And alongside her were humans, not just Tay, Yoon, and June, but others who had come to learn and share. The Guardian broke the connection and stepped back. It made a deep sound, then bowed its head to Tay. The young queen chirped from her platform. She jumped down and scampered to Tay, climbing up to her familiar spot on his shoulder. She touched his cheek with one small claw, sending a simple feeling of joy and gratitude. "You're welcome," Tay said softly. The Guardian made a gesture toward the platform, indicating it was time to leave. As they descended through the levels of the great tree, creatures stopped to watch them pass. Many made sounds or gestures that seemed like thanks. Outside, the sun was high in the sky. The flying creatures waited to escort them back to their station. The young queen chirped in Tay's ear, then jumped down. She looked up at him, her three eyes glowing softly. "Are you staying here?" Tay asked, surprised. She made a sound that somehow conveyed both yes and no. Then she touched his hand, sending one last image, herself visiting the research station often, bringing others of her kind, learning from the humans as the humans learned from them. "I understand," Tay said, smiling. "This isn't goodbye. It's just the beginning." The guardian made a sound of agreement. It extended one wing, displaying patterns that shifted from blue to gold, colors that Tay somehow knew represented alliance and friendship. As they walked back to the research station, Tay felt a sense of wonder and purpose. What had begun as a simple act of kindness, bringing a sick hatchling in from the rain, had opened the door to something extraordinary. They had not just saved a queen and her future subjects. They had created a bridge between two worlds, two species, two ways of understanding the universe. And it had all started with compassion, the universal language that needed no translation.